Hey guys, welcome to Press Play Guitar Lessons, and this lesson we are going to go over string bending. Now the reason we're going to go over string bending is because I think it's a little bit of a better idea to switch gears now and get a little bit away from the music theory and into some techniques. Techniques are part of your tool bag right there. You add that to your bag of tricks and all of a sudden you start to develop a very big dynamicity to what you can do on your instrument here. So string bending, what is it? String bending is really another way for you to get to the notes that you need to be at or want to be at without being there actually on the fretboard. So what I mean by that is that it's a little more economical because you may want to get to this note, but be here. And you don't want to press on this. So what you do is you bend the string up. And as you can see, I'm playing that note right here with a bend, and then right here, and it's the exact same sounding note. What that allows me to do is it allows me to stay on my 7th fret here, but play the note on the 8th fret here, and I'm doing this in the key of C major, and as you've already learned from previous videos, you should know the pattern of that right now, and understand what it is that I'm playing our string bending with. So if you look at the string bending as a concept, there's a couple different ways to think of it. You can think of it as an emotion, an expression, but you can also think of it as an economical tool as well. The reason I call it an economical tool is because it allows you to get to other notes without necessarily having to go there physically on the fretboard because you are going in a different direction. So one way I think about it is I kind of think about it is you have two different ways to get to the same place. One might be longer, one might be shorter, one might have a scenic view, and one might have a more city view. So one may have one of trees, one of rolling hills, and may be a little more, pleasant to the eyes, and the other one may be buildings, skyscrapers, smog, things like that. So that's kind of how I think of it. And it's not that one's particularly better over the other, it's just that for what you might be doing, one may be better over the other, and that's yours to decide. So when you're thinking about that, if we're playing something in the C major scale and we're going to go from our Aeolian mode right into the major mode, would be. So if we were just playing those three notes, it would be. So if you wanted to add a bend to it, instead you go. And now we've just taken that song and added a different dynamicity to it. And again, that's part of the roadmap that gets us to the same place. Our goal is to get to this note, but instead we're using two different techniques. Instead of just, pressing on the notes, we're going. And all of a sudden, bending has allowed us to do a couple different things with our song and add a whole different range to it. So that's the goal of string bending, and the one thing to note is that we are doing a half-step bend. Now that half-step bend there is a nice short little bend, but there is also whole-step bends. You can go up 2 whole steps, a step and a half, and it's good to experiment with those kinds of things when you're playing because you go. And you've got that whole half-step bend, but then go. And know the difference between the sounds, and that's what's the most challenging thing. That is the most challenging thing about this, is learning your half steps, your whole steps, your step and a half. Because if you go out of key, it goes. And it just sounds a little weird. And it's not that that couldn't be right for the piece of music you're playing. It's just that if you're playing in a particular key, that may not fit the song, and that may not fit the key. So those are the things that you need to be aware of. Now, you've learned how to tell which different notes are in which different keys by learning the major scale, because we've given you that formula and we've given you the concept using the C major scale. So now you can utilize that in the same fashion to listen to whatever key it is you're playing in and then find out where your whole step bend is, where your half step bend is, things like that. So I want you to go ahead and practice that. Add some gain to it when you get used to it, because then it's going to allow you to see how that feels. You know, you could be doing a run and be like, give you an example. You're good. And it just kind of adds like a little bit of feeling to it, and that's the goal, is to add a different dynamicy to it to make the song yours. So go ahead and practice what I've been teaching you in this lesson here. If you have any questions, let me know. String bending, as I said, is a simple concept to understand, but it's a hard one to master. Practice that, get used to how the next note sounds that you would like to bend to, and practice getting your ear trained to bend to that note. And then once you've got it fluid, switch over to different channels on your amp so you can see how that sounds. Make sure it's nice and clean. If you have any questions, again, get a hold of me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.